I can definitely hear you now.
Would you like to speak? Would you like to say something to the students?
Absolutely. It is so fantastic to be with you all. It's been great to hear many of your ideas from the Inception program that you've been going through and reading those on Facebook. And I really do wish I was with you in person right now as we planned, but it's so fantastic to join you live from England, Cambridge University. And I'm really, really looking forward to the time we're going to share this morning or this afternoon for you. And
yeah, Simon, we're going to begin now. We're going to see some of your videos that you have sent us, and maybe a little later we'll have some live responses from the children.
Yes, please, let's do that.
Okay. Anyone wants to say something? Students? Anyone? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, Simon, we're going to have a few presentations. Then we go through your videos and we'll come back to you. Is that fine?
Okay.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, all right. Sunita ma'am, are you here? Okay, just to share with you, students, can you all see me? Okay, I'm here because I do want Simon also to hear. The last couple of days have been lots of mixed emotions, starting with excitement and then some shock, disappointment, disbelief. I thought visa hassles only happen to Indians. We were expecting Simon on Friday afternoon, and then on Friday morning he sent me an SOS saying that he could not get his visa to India, and I couldn't believe it because I thought only Indians had these issues. We were still very hopeful that he would be with us here, but because he's an Australian citizen living in the UK, his visa will take a little time, but he's going to be with us in India as soon as he gets his visa, which could be maybe in a week's time, hopefully. Just a lot of learning that we had in the last few days, starting from disappointment, like I said, to how do we handle this situation where we have so many of you waiting expectantly for Simon to be here. And not only our school, is the Podar ICSE school, all the Podar schools across Mumbai, teachers and educators from various schools and colleges, they've all been part of this program Inception. And at one point of time, I thought maybe we'll have to abandon the program and come back to it later. But like I always tell you children, in today's time that we're living in, change is happening so fast and we're not able to predict even what's going to happen tomorrow. And this is what actually happened. And just to share with you that as we see the videos that Simon has very kindly worked upon, whatever he was going to present to you, he actually recorded them on WebEx. He sent those to me. I downloaded them. The last, I think, 3 or 4 days, we've been continuously in touch. I finished downloading all the videos by 1:30 last night, and we're going to see them this afternoon. A lot of work went into it, but the learning that we had from this experience was immense. Something which was something which we had not foreseen, something which became almost like a hurdle. We're actually trying to convert it into a learning exercise for all of us, trying to see whether, this globalized world that we live in and the interconnected world that we live in, is it really true? If a person cannot travel, can we kill this distance? And we've actually managed to do that, seeing Simon here in front of us, being able to communicate with him. This actually is the death of distance that we often talk of. So, also to share with you the strength that one got working across seas and across countries in the last 3 or 4 days. We've been communicating and we've had Skype calls on, when we were preparing for this program. But I never thought, I thought once the program was all prepared, we're all ready with our preparations, I would take a back seat and Simon would take over. I did not realize that it would happen that I would have to work with Simon and I would have to actually give face to his, some of his, lessons and messages that he's sharing with us. Also something that I noticed that about the way Simon has worked, I think it was extremely professional. He felt responsible that we had prepared for this program for so long and there were so many people involved. And he felt it was his responsibility to reach out to each one of you, spend so much time recording all the videos. And this is an hour-long presentation which he had prepared and he has sent it across. We didn't know how we were going to go about it. We went to Reliance Webworld to see if we could do video conferencing, and then we realized we need connectivity here. So we've tried out various options, and I must say that Sunita ma'am and I have learned so much. We were here yesterday evening trying to see what would be the speed of the bandwidth and how would we be able to get connectivity, and it's been truly a great learning. And I think this for me is the most important message, children, I can give you. That you don't know what's going to happen the very next moment. So how do we plan for a future which is so uncertain? And I keep saying this. And what we need to learn today is how do we adapt to any adversity and how do we convert it into an advantage. I'm sure that by the end of these 3 days, because we have something tomorrow, we have something day after, if we can emerge winners from this, this will be our greatest victory. So with that, I now call upon Sunita ma'am, who's going to be leading the show. Today, I'm going to be here because I want to, bring Simon to you as and when we can during the afternoon. Okay.
Good afternoon, students. I think this was the first time when I was really not bothered what was going to be the flow of the events, and everything was dependent on how the connectivity goes and things like that. So here we begin. The day for you is planned in such a way that there'll be few presentations followed by something special for our grade 12 standard students. Should we begin with? Can we have the projector person to switch to the second laptop? Yeah. And over to Nitika ma'am, she is going to take you through today.
To exist is to change. To change is to mature. To mature is to create oneself endlessly. The above adage captures the spirit of R.N. Podar School beautifully. We at R.N. Podar live, breathe, and sustain ourselves by taming rough terrain and conquering insurmountable challenges. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of R.N. Podar School, I extend a cordial welcome to parents and students. We commence our program with the novel ideas presented by our students as part of Inception. We would like to share this exclusivity with you. We bring you presentations by our 9th and 10th standard students. First, we have Miti Joshi speaking on synthetic happiness.
Good afternoon. Today I'll be talking about happiness. Happiness, what is it? Scientifically, it's the emotion we feel because of the rush of chemicals in our body, right? Now, happiness is also of two types, natural and synthetic. Natural happiness is what we get when we get what we wanted. Synthetic happiness is what we make when we don't get what we wanted. Synthetic happiness too is of two types, based on how they are brought about. The first is thought-induced. This is the most commonly experienced by people like you and me. Consider this, the situation 150 years ago, where you would live and die in pretty much the same world, without any change. Compare that situation to the world we live in today. That iPod, that mobile phone you're so proud of, will be a dinosaur in just a few years. Buy a new computer and it will become outdated. Ignore it. Humans have something we call the psychological immune system. This means that they change their views about the world so as to feel better about the situations they find themselves in. Here's a comic strip that helps me make the point. Here, it says, "This is Nogbart's tech support. How may I abuse you? My printer prints a blank page after every document. Why would you complain about getting free paper? Free? Isn't it just giving me my own paper? Egad, man, look at the quality of the free paper compared to your lousy regular paper. Only a fool or a liar would say that they are the same. Ah, now that you mention it, it does seem a little silkier. What are you doing? I'm helping people accept the things that they cannot change. Indeed, isn't this what we do? Accept what we cannot change, be happy, and move on. Science. Now, I'll talk about the second type of happiness. Drug-induced. Science has advanced rapidly. Now, becoming happy is as simple as just injecting some hormones into your body or popping a few pills. Nowadays, people are so happiness obsessed. Suddenly the race is on to find the big edge. Conferences, gurus, books, all are giving advice, with the million-dollar question being, how to find happiness. In these times, the concept of the wonder drug that helps us be perpetually happy is quite readily acceptable. Now here's the idea I'd like to challenge you all with today. Is eternal happiness the way to go? Or do we need a contrast of emotions? Don't you think that if we were eternally happy, we would lose the meaning of the term happiness because we would no longer experience any pain or sadness? Secondly, is it also correct to take injections and pills just because we don't have any time? It's an irony of our modern lives that while modern technology is continually invented to help us save time, we use this time to do more and more things. The last question, Most importantly, can happiness be made just by some chemicals, some hormones? Is it really something that's just this skin deep, or is there something more to it? To end with, I'd like to quote the Dalai Lama. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mithri. We now have Aditya Jain talking on education and technology.
All right. Good afternoon. My topic is a revolution, not evolution in education. Before I proceed, I would like to show you a video. I think we're having some problem with the sound. Video, please.
Okay, while Aditya, we just try to, yeah. Okay, meanwhile, Aditya will do one thing, we'll go ahead with the next one, we'll try and figure out what's the problem.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
Yeah?
Thank you. Anyway.
So we'll have the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, I guess that's a technical snag. We now have Andrea George with her ideas on imagination and reality.
Good morning to everyone present here. I was just going through the Christmas cards this season and I saw this picture of an angel and it made me wonder who came up with this beautiful original image. And then I thought, was this image actually original? For that matter, is any image or idea in this world original? And as I was pondering on this, I realized something. That our brain is this exceptional organ which can actually take images from the real world, divide it into parts and combine it to form abstractions. So if I take the image of say a pair of wings and combine it with that of a baby, I get this image of an angel. Often people say that certain poets or painters or novelists depict a picture which is new in every detail. But now that is a radical error. No image or idea can be entirely new. The combination can be new, but the materials combined or the images combined are old, and often as old as the human thought itself. And as surprising as it may sound, it is true. The quality of imagination is dependent on the age of thought. And by that, I don't mean to say that a person who is older in age will have a better imagination than a young one. What I'm trying